Hey everybody, welcome back. It's time to put this 827 big bore together from RKtek, twostrokeheads.com. We're going to do that right now. There has been some prep, getting things ready. I had to put a new impeller on the water pump and check that all out, make sure it's all good and nice and tight, and it is. So right now, I'm going to get this head ready, but what I want to show you is, this is the whole problem I had with this motor busting up in the first place. This top end seized on it because the thermostat came apart, the pieces went into the impeller, chewed the impeller apart, and then it actually wore a hole through the housing at the water pump and all the fluid leaked out the bottom. Not a good thing. So even Kelsey recommends, and I was going to do it myself, doing a thermostat delete. So if this is the way that your head sits on your snowmobile, this is back towards the driver, your thermostat pokes through the bottom of the head up through the top here. So that's where it sits. Now what I've done is, take a look at this. I've gutted my thermostat. I basically took it apart, cut all the bits and pieces and springs and all that nonsense off, and I'm just going to use this gasket here. Just place that right there like that. And this here is the bypass hose that basically goes from the top of the motor, you see it going across the top, into the water bottle or the coolant bottle. Now that's where it circulates the coolant through in the small loop. That keeps your engine warm until it's warmed up. Then the thermostat opens up, allows it to go back through the coolers and then all through the big loop. Now what I did was, I put a solid piece of aluminum rod in there, about 1 inch long. I just had this old shaft, it's about 3/4 of an inch thick. I drilled a 1/8 hole into it. I was told to do that by Kelsey at RKtek. And I just clamped it on with this clamp. So it's stuck in the middle. That thing is going nowhere. And we've done our thermostat delete. If I just took the thermostat delete out and I didn't plug this hose, the circuit wouldn't be right. The coolant wouldn't know where to go. It might go through the bypass a little bit, might not go through the coolers the way it should. So I'm going to just attach this little outlet here for this, or the down spout, whatever you want to call it. Easier to do now than when it's on the motor with the cylinders in place. A lot easier. There we go. Beautiful piece of work. Okay. Now the instructions came with this kit. I'm going to follow the instructions exactly. That's the way we want to do things when installing a kit. Make sure it's under warranty. Make sure we do it all right. And hey, this is all being recorded so that you guys can see how to do it and so that he can see how we do it as well. So I'm going to pop these rings out. The first thing we have to do, according to his instructions, is we have to measure the ring end gap. Now, I'm going to show you what that is. You guys should do this whenever you're changing a piston on a snowmobile, or any other engine for that matter. This is the ring gap here. Let me see if you can see better right here. Basically, it's the amount of space in between the ends of these two ends of the ring here. Okay? If that's too tight when you install it in your piston, when it heats up, they're going to come in contact, they're going to bulge out, possibly get stuck in the exhaust port, wreck your cylinder, do a bunch of damage, and that's what you don't want to happen. There does have to be room for expansion in there. Generally speaking, with the ring, you're looking at about, anything tighter than 10 thou, and it's possibly going to give you issues. So, in order to measure these, all we do, we take our ring, we place it in the cylinder, you run your feeler gauge right in between there. That's 13 thou, so that gives us lots of room. So I know that 13 thou on this cylinder, no problem. Level this one out. Oops. I have 13 thou on that one, plenty of room. So now I know that these two rings are good for this cylinder. I'm going to leave those there. They're not necessarily good for this cylinder because every cylinder is different. Now I'll just check this one out. I've never gotten a ring for a cylinder that's been too tight. Not saying it's never going to happen, And I'm not done here yet either, but so far that one looks good. Check this one here too. This one here is good as well. Now if they were too tight, all I would do is I would just take a small file and I would just file the end of that just a little tiny bit, then remeasure it, make sure it's on the same angle, and then we're good to go. Now it's time to install the rings on the pistons. That's pretty easy. You don't need a piston ring installer. Just come on over here and you can see this. There is a right and a wrong way to install these rings. And there's writing on here. Let's see if you can see that. Hit that little light there. Hope you can see that. There is writing, and the writing always goes up. And all you do, you can see there's a little pin there to keep this ring in place. All you do is you just slip it over top. Get it down inside there. That's it. And as you close this, you can actually see how the ring has a little tiny bevel on the edge of it, right where the ring end gap is, more or less. And that sort of hooks in where that pin is. So if you would know that if you had it in the wrong way, because that would be down at the bottom. Now I'll just pop the top one on. There you go. This piston is for this cylinder. These are so nice looking. So nice and shiny. These are forged pistons. They're not cast. So, never used these ones before. It's going to be fun to try. So I tried putting this one in the wrong way. And even though it looks like it fits, I can't actually compress this ring inside the groove. So, just pop it out. I'm going to install these pistons on these connecting rods. Now what you want to do is, there's a little directional arrow right there. You want to put these facing the exhaust. That arrow goes to out. This is the business side of the motor. This is the side you sit behind. And this is where the exhaust comes out. So the piston is going to have to go in here. Now what we need to do, I've got these Wiseco bearings, good quality bearing. Lube them up. Kelsey just says to use 2-stroke mineral oil. With those. I'm just going to install this circlip here. You want to make sure you hear it click in there. That it's fully seated in this groove. If it's not, it's going to come out on you. And I always put the one in that's furthest inside the motor first, so I don't install it, then have to put one in this side and then one in the other side. Doesn't make sense. Some oil for it. Just push that pin in. You'll always want your rings to be pointing to the back of the motor. Now I'll just pop this other one in here. You want your circlips to be at about 6 o'clock position. So the opening at them, about 6 o'clock. I'll put my glasses down. There's nothing worse than getting a spring in the face. There. Tricky. All right, we'll just put this base gasket on. Comes with the kit, proper thickness. Things have changed because he did that work on it. The port timing on it has changed. So everything needs to be set up his way. He says to use this mineral oil as assembly lube. That's what we're going to do. When you're putting that base gasket on, you got to make sure that it's free, your cases basically are free and clear of any debris. You don't want any leaks in your base. There we go. I always just lube up around these rings here. And I also have to make sure that the rings are aligned with the little pins in there so that when they compress, they go fully inside the piston. So just grab your rings, squeeze them in kind of tight, and just grab your cylinder. It'll squeeze down over top of that. Now align your base gasket. And just drop it in there. So I want to make sure that it goes on without pinching it. There we go. Over there. Now he says just to snug up these cylinder bolts here. I'm not going to tighten these up because you need to install the Y pipe to align everything, because these cylinders actually, they can clock a little bit on you. So if you tighten them up and then you put your Y pipe on, chances are pretty good you're going to have an exhaust leak. That you don't want. There. These on here. Now we'll tighten these up just loosely. I don't know if you can loosely tighten something. Just snug them up a little bit. So far looking pretty good. Anytime you're putting a motor together, it's a good time. Hey Kai, son's over there watching. Daddy, what does a piston do? Daddy, what's a cylinder? What does displacement mean, Dad? What's a 7.3 liter? What does that mean? That means how much fuel it drinks every minute. I've installed these new machined valves. Somebody said they're not engine valves, not exhaust valves, they're rave valves. Okay, I've installed them. You gotta make sure with these that this little port actually is accessed by the back of this rave valve. Starting to come together. Perfect timing too. 10 centimeters coming, maybe a little bit more, maybe 6 to 8 inches. It's supposed to be. We've had a wicked cold spell come through here. Hasn't been good. There we go. Good times. Now before I tighten down these cylinders, I always like to install the manifold, the exhaust manifold first. It's just the way I do it. Just because it's not a mono head, you know, it's there's a little bit of movement in them sometimes. So if you don't have them all fastened with this Y pipe, then there's a possibility that the heads might go on, or the cylinders might go on a little crooked. You might not get a really good seal on your Y pipe when you go to hook it back up next time. If you don't have a good seal on your white pipe, then you're going to possibly have an exhaust leak, and then you're going to run into an issue where you maybe burn something down. So I like to put this on just more or less just to clock them, make sure that they're in the right position. Then I'll buckle the cylinders down, and then we'll get the head on. I didn't put a gasket in there because I have to take this back off again, because you can't install it in the snowmobile with the manifold, the exhaust manifold attached. It just doesn't fit. So I'm going around, I'm going to torque these down to 27 foot-pounds, and I'll come back around and I'll hit them up to 32. Have you hugged your motor today? Okay. Oh, you're such a good motor. I love you, motor. Well, that's what I say now. How many times have I had this motor apart? There we go, 38, 32 right there. Right on. Now it's time to get that head on. Pretty cool, good times. Replace these O-rings inside these domes, on top of these domes. And there's a little X here that marks the spot how these are clocked inside the head. Place this other one on. Nope. There's my X right there. There we are. Now, place my O-rings and gaskets on top here. I usually put new ones on, depending on how old they are when I took them off or what kind of damage I did to the head at the time. If I really heated it up, I just replace everything. I have enough kits sitting around. Go. If these leak on you, you're going to run into issues, right? You're going to have coolant disappearing on you. I get that all the time. Questions. Where's my coolant going? Now, holding these domes, place that head into position. Boom. Looks good. Now, a box of bolts. That's why I want those done. Now, there's a correct order to tightening these. You have to follow it. That way it goes down just right every time. What I did with my other head that came off this was marked it right on them. I just put a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, however many on here, I think 12. And that way I know every time where I have to torque them to.
make it impossible.